recently I've had it put on my heart to talk about my testimony that I've been given by the Lord. I've had a pretty rough life. Um, People might think, as a child, I had a rough upbringing. My mum, when I was 6 and younger, before she was saved, she didn't really talk to me, or she wasn't really a mother for me. She would just do the basics and not love me, in a sense. This really hurt me as a child, but I remember believing in God, and having Him always there with me. I used to have arguments with my mates in primary school, whether he was alive or not, or whether he was real. And I would get hurt, and I'd feel it in my heart when people wouldn't believe God. Because I wouldn't understand that, an all powerful God, making an earth seems, logical to me. It would make sense. But as my mum was saved, it was me noticing the changes and really encouraged me of God's existence, because she started looking after me better. She started loving me more. And some of my struggles, there were no longer struggles. And also as a child, I used to see demons, and I used to go to sleep and have this knowing that I would see something that night, and things staring at me before I went to bed. I would hate it. It would be such a battle for me as a child, because I was so scared. It was like being in a horror movie in real life. And I had a friend who lived in a really old house, and I used to go around there for sleepovers. And one time, we were sleeping in the living room. I woke up in the middle of the night, and he wasn't there. So I'd go out looking for him. And when I'd go out looking for him, for some reason, even though I was scared, I would look in the dark and find him. I'd go room by room. But what I used to see would be figures at the end of the hallway wearing a cloak and a top hat. And one time, and this is the worst I've ever had it as a kid, I heard doors smash, someone playing pool, uh, and glasses being smashed, and lights flickering, knocking on the door, doors slamming behind me. Um, and this used to really intimidate me. I used to be really scared, but I knew this was like confirming that God was real, and this voice that used to guide me and protect me in those times was God Himself looking after me. When I used to be intimidated by these demons, I heard a voice saying, "You're okay, you're in safe hands." So I knew this was God or some higher power that was looking after me. And I got this confirmation when my mum was saved. She was like, "Santa's not real. Halloween is from the devil." And I replied with, as a kid, "Yeah, I know. It makes sense to me." With the Halloween and people dressing up in devil masks and skeletons, I used to see how evil it was as a child, and Santa not being real made sense to me, because God was real, and there's no such thing. As a kid, I knew there's no such thing as flying reindeers, should I say. I had this knowing. Not many children my age knew, like, realised this. I felt like always out of place. But as I grew up older, and as my mum was growing in the Lord, we had a car crash, and my life got pretty rough, and we was placed in my grand's care for a while, because after the car crash, my mum was placed into a psych ward. Um, and it was really tough for me being away from my mum, because I had homesickness, and I had to get used to it. And I felt like I had this authority given to me to look after my sisters, as I'm the oldest now. My mum's not with us, and we're not really allowed contact with her. And we've just come from a car crash. We've got no clothes, because we're not allowed at our house, because it's now somewhat a crime scene or whatever. So we're not allowed to grab anything from the house, any clothes or anything. And it's like I'm starting again with my gran, hoping I would go back into my mum's care. But 6 months, or I don't know, however long, felt like 6 months to say that, but we went back into my mum's care. And this is where I thought everything was going back to normal. Um, my mum was buying new furniture around the house, but life was like getting comfortable again. But social workers was involved, and then that's when I don't remember much as a kid, but we was placed into my nan and granddad's care, because what I was told, my mum couldn't look after us, and I was confused. I thought my mum could look after us. She seemed capable mum. She loved me. She loved my sisters, looked after us, fed us, and she did what was best for us. And so I thought, I didn't know what was going on. But looking back to it now, I realise it was the God. It was God starting to work in my life, starting to work in my sister's life, and starting to work in my mum's life. And I was actually excited to be away from my mum. Somewhat, I had homesickness, and I was worried and nervous, but I knew the Lord was working, and I had hope in Him. But my nan and granny couldn't look after us, so then we transitioned from living with family to going into care, and I wasn't so excited anymore. I was with strangers, separated from my mum forever, for what it felt like, and I was 11 years old at the time. So I really I didn't know what was happening. I was transitioning from year 6 to year 7, so I was going into a new environment, new home, new family, and I was separated from my sisters, except for one, Kiara, my younger sister, but the older of the three of them, my older sister. And, on the first night, I really struggled to get to sleep. I was shattered. My heart was gone. I'm in care, but I knew the Lord was with me though. I knew the Lord had a plan for this. He was in control. I knew this. And I used to also tell myself, there's kids in worse situations out there. There's kids that starve to death. There's kids that don't have food. At least I still have that. At least I have clothes on me still. And at least I have someone looking after me. Even though they might not love me, they're still looking after me. But this person, one of them that was looking after me, she was very sexist. And I felt her hate towards me. And I used to remember this, and it would really break me, being in a new home. And I'd try everything to please her, but I would never please her. She would always hate me. And there used to be posters on the wall of men being useless and jokes around masculine being worthless. And so then I had this knowledge that she just didn't like me because I was a man. And because I was living with my sister at the time, she used to favour my sister. And me and my sister was quite close. We'd argue, we'd play fight and stuff. And she would always tell me off for play fighting, even though I thought it was just all good and fun, as what sisters and brothers do. But she saw it as me being abusive. And as a care kid, I was known as a tough and bad child to look after. So I'm now worth a lot of income for whoever looks after me because I'm a tough kid to look after. And I was told this, and hearing this, I was shattered because I tried my best to be a good child, tried my best to be polite, and I was polite. I remember being polite. So I was confused, and because of this, me and my sister we split up. We was placed into 2 different new homes. And I remember seeing this new family I was going to, and they seemed perfect. And they seemed perfect and everything. And something I needed as a kid. I always wanted a loving, normal family, as I would say, a normal family that loved their children. They went out together. Just no like mental health or anything like that. Like my mum and I had to deal with, tough life I had to go up with. So I thought it was a normal family kind of thing. But I just want to add, on my first night ever in care, I was sobbing so much. I ended up crying myself to sleep at around like 2 a.m. And God gave me a dream, and the dream was a new heaven and new earth, because He woke me up and He gave me this verse. But in this dream, I saw Jesus wipe my tears like this, and behind Jesus, I saw loads of people, happy, joyful, and we was all surrounded by this something. I can only explain it as it would be like you're in a white room, but it's an infinite white room, and it was this glow about it, a white glow around, and everyone was happy, and it was a good feeling in this white infinite room. And I saw Jesus wipe away my tears. But as I woke up seeing this, I was encouraged. But the Lord led me to my Bible, which was underneath my bed, in like hidden away. I never used to read, but He led me to the Bible. Never read any book before, and He took me to Revelation 21, Revelation 20 verse 21. And it says from verse 3, highlighted, and I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them as their gods. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, but the former things have passed away." And I knew this is what I saw. So I was massively encouraged. Like, the Lord showed me what he has planned. And I was like excited, you know. I might be in care, but I saw what was going to come from this, you know. But now I'm transitioning to a new family, a new home, and I was told during this transition that I'm no longer allowed contact with my mum, and this is when I started questioning God's plan a little bit. I thought I'd be going back into my mum's care after a year of me suffering, you know, having to deal with the situation. I thought I'd be back in my mum's care, but I'm transitioning now into a new family where it's permanent, a permanent fixture, and I'm confused. Like, Lord, what is it that you're doing? I still had hope, and I was still encouraged, because I used to remind myself of Revelation 21. I used to pray, and I was able to find a way to contact my mum. We used to use Xbox, and we would secretly contact each other. But as I got used to this new home, I realised, and the devil used to play in my mind, that I'm an income for this new family. I'm a job for them. I'm not a person, but I'm an income, and that's what I had in my mind. So I kind of degraded myself as no longer a human being, and this is when it got really tough for me. You know, seeing myself as an object, nearly broke me into pieces, because there's nothing I could do to fix my mindset at this point, because I couldn't talk to anyone. I wasn't able to talk to my family. Because I was told they was dangerous. Even though I thought they wasn't dangerous, I was told they was dangerous. So I couldn't talk about this to anyone. I couldn't talk about it to my carers, because I didn't want them to think bad about me. I just wanted to see like a normal kid that was doing all right, and that I'm well behaved. But as I tried to forget about this and ignore these things, I noticed how they was always a family, and then there was me. I was always a part of their group, and I saw how their mother would give attention to her two sons, and I would be left out in this, because she had two sons, Jack and Thomas, and I could tell she used to love him a lot. The same with the dad. He used to love him a lot, and then it would be me. I would never get any of this attention, and I knew it'd be my fault, because I never acted like I wanted that attention. I kept to myself. I kept in my room all the time, and I didn't really want it anyways, because I was too shy, too nervous, and it was so uncomfortable being in this family, and it felt like I was invading their privacy 24/7. Like, I couldn't be myself around them, like they couldn't be themselves around me, and it was a constant battle to get up to even eat dinner with them. It was a constant battle, because I constantly felt like I was invading their privacy, and this was really tough for me, and it really got tough when quarantine hit, because that's when I was then truly trapped in my room, and it was a mental battle in my head every day, and I then got opened up to porn, ended up masturbating, and then this would be an escape to the pain that I had. I would then use this to feel happy and to feel joyful, but me doing this sin then created a new problem. It separated me from God, and the relationship that we had as a kid, as I had with him as a kid, it was fading away. I remember the first time I ever did it, I was like, Lord, what have I done? I will never do this sin again. I was shaking. I didn't know what to do. I remember I was just in such a mess. It was like I knew from this point I was going to go downhill even more. And it was really tough, you know, disappointing the Lord and feeling it in my heart when I opened up the sin in care, because it was all I had in care. I wasn't had contact with anyone. And during, like, fast forward a few months, quarantine ended, and I'm moving into this new school. And into this new school, I couldn't be bothered to make any friends, so I was kind of a weird kid, and I'd get bullied for being a weird kid, and that was tough for me. You know, I've kind of get into my limit now. You know, I've disappointed God. I'm in this new school, and nothing is going well. I can only think of bad things happening in my life. Not one good thing has happened for years, and I'm now giving up on the hope that I'm going back into my mum's care, and now I'm now giving up on God's and what He has planned for me. I'm giving it up, and I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna be me. I'm gonna be by myself, keep to myself, try and kill my emotions I had, try and kill the attention I wanted, try and kill the love I wanted, and numb myself. Try to make myself a robot in a sense. And doing that, it worked during the day, but when I would go home and go to bed to think about the day, I just realized how lost I am. And I used to cry myself to sleep listening to sad music, and I used to picture myself jumping off a bridge, and finding ways to kill myself. I used to search up ways to kill myself. I used to talk to myself to give myself comfort. I used to have voice notes, an hour-long voice notes on how broken I am. And I used to talk to myself so much, because I felt like I couldn't talk to the Lord about my problems, because I felt like He was no longer there because of how much I did this new sin, lust. And I was shattered. I had anxiety now. I was depressed. And I kept looking at myself in the mirror like I hated myself. I saw how fat I was. I saw how ugly I was, and I used to call myself ugly. And I remember going to my room, and just the whole time I was in so much darkness, and I felt like I was in prison. I was entrapped, and this idea of me going into my mum's care again, it was lost. It lost in my memories. Same was how I was as a kid. It was lost. I didn't remember anything about myself anymore. Like something has wiped my memory. Like I'm in survival mode now, and I'm trying to keep myself alive. I'm gonna stop myself from killing myself. I have to do these things to get on every day with my life, and it'd be really hard. There was one day where they went out as a well, we went out with the mother and one of the sons, and they was walking together as a two, and I was behind them a little bit, and I just got really tempted just to turn around and just run and just keep running, and never be seen again by anyone, and to go missing. But thankfully, I never did that. But I went home. I told myself a new plan. There was a tall bridge in Ipswich, because that's where I was living at the time. A bridge in Ipswich, a very tall bridge. And I remember asking one of my carers one time, I bet people kill themselves on that bridge. And I said, yeah. And so I had this idea. One day I'm going to walk to this bridge and I'm going to kill myself. And I said, I'm going to do it in 2 days. I'm going to, give up. I've too much pain. But during these 2 days before I was going to do it, I was getting these images in my head of my mum crying. Just get these visions of my mum never being the same again, after hearing me dead. And this really broke me. And I never felt like any emotion, but I felt this in my heart. My heart sank. And so I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep hold of me going back to my mum. I'm just going to keep waiting for that time to come. And it did. But to me, it was too late. The damage was already done. My personality was non-existent. Myself was non-existent. I'm AI, and I've been programmed just to live, just to eat, and not to exist. I remember in care, I was so broken, I couldn't even eat properly because I just felt so out of place. I couldn't eat, and I wanted to starve myself. A peaceful death would be starving myself, or to not drink for a few days. And it was really tough, being 11 years old and hitting puberty at the time, dealing with all these things, and not having a relationship with God that I used to remember and used to rely on so much. It was really tough. But hearing that I was going back into my mum's care, I knew God's promise was coming to light. Because my mum always said that we was going to go back into her care, because that's what God told her. And I felt like this time in care was a battle for me and my sisters and my mum to grow in the Lord. But even though I thought this, I didn't actually care. I had so much damage caused to me. I didn't really care what God had planned for me. I mean, the damage is too much. What's the point? But I came into this new school, I was excited a little bit to make new friends. But I realised every time I moved away to a new school, how little people cared about me. I'd move away and they'd never speak to me again. That was hard to realise. But I was empty. And there'd be one way I would fill this void, and it'd be talking to girls, having girlfriends. So I used to do that a lot. Before I moved, I was talking to girlfriends, and I had a girlfriend at the time, 3 months, and I felt good. And then I talked to a few girls in the school that I was moving in with my mum. School. I was talking to girls, and I dated a few of them, and I was just filling this void. It was only temporary, but I was also in this school, tried to give myself attention, tried to play around, mess around. I don't really care about my GCSEs or anything like that, because me getting attention was filling this void, and I used to mess around as much as I could. And at the time I was playing football, I was in a football team, I was trying my best to be good at football, and trying to create a personality for myself. I was creating myself again. I thought if I rebuild myself and make something for myself, I might feel better. Me filling this void might fill it forever if I build the foundation for myself. But as I kept doing this, and as I kept going from girl to girl and going from day to day, I realised how broken I was. I'd go home at night times especially, and I would cry. I would just feel broken. I knew the Lord had a plan for me when I was a kid, but look at where I am now. I'm doing nothing what the Lord wants. I'm not praying. I'm not reading. I'm being so disobedient. I'm so distant from Him, and I just made me want to kill myself even more. And I tried to go for another girlfriend and try for new girls just to try and play this down. But it really led me to the point where enough is enough. And one night I messaged my mate saying goodbye. I can't deal with this anymore in the group chat. Got a bunch of tablets, pills. I researched how much would kill me, and so I got the amount, and I made sure it was enough. So I gave myself even more. And I remember it was in the bed next to me. As I was laying down, I was crying. I was like thinking of my life choices. But I hear my mum scream downstairs, and my heart drops. My heart sinks, and I hear her storming up, and I'm like, "Oh no, what have I done?" And the tablet's in my hands, and I just freeze, like I'm shocked. And I hear as she comes storming in, saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I hear on the phone my friend's crying to her, and as he was crying to her, I felt cared for the first time. After so long, I felt cared for. That someone was crying because I went to kill myself. And so he came round. I remember he was with me there, crying with me, and that was the one feeling I haven't felt for years, someone caring for me. So I thought maybe this is the first step into me feeling better. So I had counsellors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and I had medication to take. I had as much time off school, no stress. I could do whatever I want. I had a mum that would check up on me. I had people check up on me, friends check up on me. I had everything I wanted. There was nothing that could have made me sad. But me doing these things and me talking about these things, I thought what was going to happen was I was just going to be fixed. But what was really happening is because I have all of these things prevented me from killing myself. I thought I was better because I was kind of blind to the pain. I was blind to the root cause of all this struggle. So it would sometimes hit me, and it would snap in my mind that I'm still broken. I'm still destroyed. The Lord had a plan for me, and I'm still not doing what the Lord wants, or I'm doing lust every single day and these sins, and I'm not caring about myself, and I just don't feel loved again, and I feel emotional. I would just lead in these cycles, and I really just had enough. They put me on stronger medication, but it wasn't doing anything. I had one thing that would keep me from killing myself, and it would be a game called Rust. And I used to spend all my time on this game called Rust. I'd have a backward sleep schedule, so I'd wake up at 7 p.m. I'd go to bed at 6 a.m. and I'd have a backward sleep schedule for a long time playing this game Rust, and it would be my escape. But as I slowly got settled into this new routine, every time I'd wake up and just see how it was dark, I would never see the sun. I would never see the light, and this kind of reflected on me as a person. I never saw light in anything I did. I never saw light anywhere I looked. I only saw darkness, and darkness was always around me. And so this really broke me. Me coming to this sense that I'm I'm broken so much I don't see light anymore, and anywhere I look, anywhere I go is dark. And having a backward sleep schedule, waking up at night all the time, really, I just couldn't do it anymore. One day my mum went out to church, Wednesday night Bible study, and so this is my window to go to a bridge and kill myself. But before this, I used to go on walks at around 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, to reflect on my life and to reflect on the things I've done that led up to the decision, and to reflect on the sins I was doing against the Lord and how I failed Him. I used to tell myself, I failed you, God. Look who I am now, going on walks by myself, crying myself to sleep, wanting to kill myself, contemplating killing myself every day. But this time, I'm not telling anyone, because last time I told someone, I never did it. So I told myself, next time I go to kill myself, no one's gonna know. So I went, as my mum went to Bible study, I saw this as a getaway card to go on top of this bridge, because no one would know it's gone. So as I was walking to this bridge to kill myself, I was excited. I was so encouraged to kill myself. You know, all this pain was going to go, all this pain was going to disappear. I had a smile on my face to go kill myself. And all this pain I had, it was there, but I knew it was going to end, because I was going to die. I was going to be put asleep forever. So I was walking to the bridge, and I got on top of the bridge, and I looked down on this busy road. And as I was thinking about my life decisions, how it led here, and how I had such a crap life, and me disappointing God, and just really breaking down in tears, crying. I remember I took a moment. I laid down, thought, I'm not going to be here much longer, so let me have a few minutes. And I remember looking at the moon. And as I looked at the moon, something happened. I don't know what it was exactly, but this battle that was me dealing with it was no longer me battling. It was like there was something in my mind that was bickering back and forth, trying to kill me, trying not to kill me. Like the devil and Jesus was fighting over my body. It's like it was happening in my mind, and I was so confused. And it was like I was drugged up. I didn't know what to say. I was slurring my words. I wasn't thinking straight. I was just confused in what was happening to my body. Where I wanted to kill myself, but now I don't want to kill myself, but then I want to kill myself, and I was confused. I was lost. And as this was happening, for some reason, I just went to call my mum. And this is something I would never do. So I feel like this was the Lord really calling my mum for me to give her a letting her know the situation that I was in. It was the Lord saving me from killing myself. And it was really tough, because I so wanted to kill myself that night. And the fact that I was calling my mum saying to come get me, or calling my mum to make that not happen, it was really tough, because I so wanted to do it, but it was like the Lord wasn't allowing me to. And she picked me up. She got my location on my phone, because I didn't want to tell her where I was. Like she would ask me, "Where are you?" And I just said, "I don't know." She'd ask me, "What are you doing?" And I just said, "I don't know. I've had such a crap life." And she kept asking me questions. And thankfully, on my phone, I had my live location on, so she realised it was on top of a bridge, a train track, and so she went there instantly. And she called me, "McCorley, get down." And as I heard that, I went from laying down, and I just got up and I started walking to my mum. And she kept me on call. She kept asking me questions and looking after me, but I was so out of it. Like, I wasn't myself. Like, the pain I had, it wasn't really there, but it was kind of. In my mind, I heard the devil saying, "Go back to that bridge, go kill yourself. You're nearly done it. That pain is nearly gone. Just you can't give up now." And then I had God on the other side, saying, "Listen to your mum. You think of how your mum would react," and it was so overwhelming. It was like I was zoned out. But I got into my mum's car, and she was talking to me. She was calling my pastor. Well, not my pastor, but pastor at the time. Well, my pastor now, but at the time he wasn't. Never been to this church before. But I was zoned out. I didn't know. She was talking. I'm like, if I was like this, I don't know. I was like that. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I was going to hospital. I remember she had a phone call, and the pastor was saying the church is going to be praying. And I realised, how distant I've been with the Lord. How disappointed I thought he was on me. But then I realised I never really put in the effort um, after coming back into care. And I was in hospital. My mum wanted me to be sedated, but they couldn't do that. And skip a few months, my mum's forced me to go to church now to be fixed, and I was somewhat wanting to, because I've tried everything else. I'm gonna try church, Calvary Chapel. I'm gonna start going to this church and see if this really heals me of my pain. And as much as I hated it, because I hate talking to people, giving people eye contact, or being open as a person, or just trying. I hated trying to make myself better as well. But I used to come into church, and the pastor Pastor James only wanted me to just to be in the environment. And so what I used to do is have AirPods in, my hood up like this, my head down, and just on my phone scrolling. And I would stay away from as many people as possible from talking to me. But as I go there for a few weeks, James was telling me how he wants me now to go up to the front. I don't have to be there for the worship. Just go up in the front and listen. And I do that sometimes. I go up to the front, but I'm sleeping during the sermon. I'm snoring at the front. I'm not listening, not caring. But I'm taking these small steps into denying what I wanted and doing what God wanted. Later on, I ended up going in. I ended up taking it more seriously to actually listen to what James is saying. And to, take a chance with this whole church thing, and to really be healed by it. Because before, like when I used to believe in God and I used to know He had a plan for me, before I went into care, we never went to church. We used to watch YouTube videos on God, and my mum used to be in Hebrew Roots, and we had an online church, and I never was used to being in a church in person. So this was like new. I didn't really like it at first, but I thought I'd give it a go. And the more I gave to the Lord, the more I put in an effort, I realised the more I was actually being healed. And I had this desire to go to church. And He then told me to start bringing in my Bible. So I brought in my Bible, started listening more. Then He told me to leave my phone in the car. So I started leaving my phone in the car. And then I started having this more effort to the Lord. I wanted to put more effort in. So I started reading Proverbs. And I read Proverbs a couple of times. I wanted to memorize it. And Proverbs was really like the Lord was talking to me, and I'm so happy. I had this realization that the Lord actually wants me. I thought I disappointed Him, but me reading the Bible, it was like He was talking to me, like He wants me. And then when I realized this, I decided to put in even more effort with church and stuff. I used to put it before my football. I used to read more at home. I used to pray to God again. And I was just like putting in more effort, because I noticed He was putting in more effort, as in when I put in more effort. So I saw the fruit that was coming out of this. And I remember one day in a fellowship meal, I was reading Proverbs, and I was sat in front of someone, and as I was reading, I was just hoping this person wouldn't talk to me, because I had this weird feeling. And the night before this all happened, I had a sleep paralysis, and I used to get that a lot. But as I distanced myself from God, I never really had that, or I might have, but I don't really remember, because I used to tell myself it was all dreams, it was all fake. Like one time as a kid, I called for Archangel Michael, and I saw him in my room, and growing up, and being distant from God, I just told myself it was my imagination. But then I started realizing, when I started getting closer to God, that this was all actually happening, because I was getting these things happen to me again. And the day before, I was born again, I had the sleep paralysis, and I remember God woke me up, and I had my eyes closed. I was asleep. I was half asleep, like confused. But I heard in my head, "You're in safe hands. Don't open your eyes. It will end soon." So I go from being half asleep to confused. I kept my eyes closed, but I ended up getting put back asleep. But I remember I woke up again, and it was like I wasn't in my room anymore. The feeling around me changed. I was in a different place, but I was scared because I knew something, and I felt things. So I was curious to what this was. So I opened my eyes for a split second, and for a split second I opened my eyes. I saw demons dancing around me. I saw demons taunting me, playing, messing with me and trying to scare me and intimidate me. And at the end of my feet, where I was laying down, because I didn't see my bed when I opened my eyes, but at the end of my feet I saw this very tall demon. And I closed my eyes quickly, like, because I remember what God said, do not open your eyes. And as I remembered that, this demon crawled from my feet towards my face and was here. And as it was here, it was taunting me to open my eyes, and it kept going, and it kept making fun of me, trying with all its might to open my eyes. But I stayed strong to what the Lord said, to keep my eyes closed, partly because I was intimidated for what was happening, and because I didn't want to look into this demon, because I was really scared. I could feel its presence. It had authority behind it, and I was really scared. But I kept strong, and it felt like hours, but it ended up passing. I fell back to sleep, and I woke up the next day, and then the Lord reminded me what happened, and I was shocked. But this is the next day, and Sunday I'm in church now, I'm reading, because of this experience I've had. I know, like, the Lord's calling for me again, so I'm going to start putting in effort. But this person in front of me, I had this bad feeling like the Lord didn't want me to sit near him. And as a conversation opened up with him, I told him about this experience I had with these demons. And it was like he was manifesting. And as he was doing what he was doing, I don't even know, I was confused. I just started crying. I just felt God's love again. It was being poured on me. It was so overwhelming. I didn't understand what was happening. But as this was happening, I just knew what this person was. It wasn't of God, and it was like I was being attacked. But the Lord had me in safe hands. He was protecting me, and the church was praying for this person, trying to get this demon out of him. And then he mocked Jesus, the crucifix, and that's when I definitely knew, like, this is not from God. This person doesn't want me to be saved, but this person had a demon in him that doesn't want me to be saved. Because I could feel this demon trying to get to me, but the Lord was so covering me. It was so powerful that this demon couldn't get near me, and I could feel this battle going on. And I just kept crying, tears kept coming out. No matter how many times I tried to stop, I just kept crying, and I was so thrilled by it, but tired by it at the same time. Like, the Lord has got me. He's got me, and so I was so encouraged. And this was a few weeks, or I think, after me being baptized. I remember when I got baptized, you know how I said, I used to only see darkness. I have a backwards sleep schedule. When I was baptized, when I was dunked into the water, I remember getting this vision of the church around me it just glowed, like it changed colour in a way. How I used to see dark and dark only. It was like my mind changed when I was baptized. I could see the light again. And it was like my first step into being healed was me being baptized in Calvary Chapel. But with this man, manifesting over me and me being born again, I was in tears the whole day. I was rejoicing that the Lord has saved me from all this pain I had, all this trouble I had as a kid, all my time in care. It was all coming back to me. How close I was when I was a kid. It was all coming back. I was rejoicing so much. But lust, masturbation, was my biggest struggle. And I didn't do it for a few weeks. I really tried to not do it, but I ended up falling, and I fell, and I kept it a secret. I never told anyone because I didn't want people to know that didn't want my mum to know I was doing this sin after I was saved. It was an awful feeling, and so this slowly led me to go back to how I was. It slowly led me to feel that pain I once had, to go back to my attempts to numb it and to talk to girls again. I was going back to that, and one day, I'm not caring anymore. I had that experience with the Lord. I know He's real. I know He wants me, but I can't get to level. I can't do it, so I give up. But one day, my mum comes into my room and she says, "Are you doing it, McCorley?" And I go, "No, I don't know what you're on about." She goes again, "Are you doing it, McCorley?" And I say again, "Mum, genuinely, I'm not doing it. Listen, if you think God's telling you, it's not God." And I knew when I said that, God's telling her that I'm doing it. I just don't want her to know. She says again, "McCorley, you can tell me if you're doing it." So because I knew it was the Lord, I just opened up and I said I was doing it, and it led into a conversation. And this conversation, I realised how bad this sin was, and I realised how bad it was keeping it secret, keeping it away from my mum, keeping it away from the church, and just keeping it away from God himself. I realised how bad it was. And so I decided to start working on it again. And it was up and down, obviously. It was a struggle. But I kept going, confess it to my mum sometimes, confess it not. I'd read my Bible, I'd pray to God. And, I was giving a lot to God. I gave up football completely. And that was tough for me to do, to give up football, because it was something I've played my whole, since I can remember, it's football. But I was giving up these things, playing games, I gave up that, gave up my time. But, James, on Wednesday night, worship, James asked if anyone wants to come up for prayer. Come up for prayer. And that's when the Lord said, you're going to go out for prayer. And he gave me a vision where I was going to go out for prayer, and I'm going to ask for, if I can remember off my heart, I'm going to ask for to be humble and obedient. That's what God said. I'm going to ask for prayer. So I did that. And as James is praying, I just felt God's love again. What I had when I was born again, it was that, but 100-fold. I could feel him around me. He was talking to me in my mind. And everyone, when they were singing, I could feel their words in the atmosphere, praising the Lord. And it would really encourage me that the Lord has got his hands around me, and the devil doesn't have a grip on me anymore. The Lord is in control. The Lord has won. And Jesus died on the cross for this sin I'm doing. So I realised that, and I was spirit-filled. And I used to, after this, I decided I'm going to give everything to the Lord. I deleted every social media app. I stopped talking to some of my friends, and I just closed myself from the world, and I focused on God. At work, I was working at McDonald's at the time, which was given to me by the Lord. But at work, I was preaching the message. I'd read at work, on my break. 20 chapters a day. I would pray every chance I would get. I'd go home, watch videos about the Lord. I was on fire, and I didn't know where I could go from here. But as I was up this point, I had a temptation to masturbate again, and I tried to ignore it. I thought, this thing, I'm not going to do it again. I'm reading 20 times a day. I'm praying as much as I want. I'm not going to do it again. So I'm going to ignore it. I ignored it, and I ignored it, and I ignored it. And it became so unbearable, I ended up falling into this sin. And then as soon as I fell into it, I told myself I'm not going to tell anyone. Spirit-filled. And now I've just done this sin. I can't let anyone know. I've disappointed the Lord once again. And so it became such a battle to keep myself alive. Because at this time I had a motorbike, and I was doing silly things on this motorbike because I didn't care if I died. Because I have upset God. I kind of wanted myself to die because I've disappointed him in my mind. Because when I was confessing to my mum at the time, every time I do it, she would rebuke me. And she would tell me I shouldn't be doing this sin anymore. And so I thought that was the Lord telling me I shouldn't be doing this sin anymore. And I thought it was the Lord saying, he's given up on me. So I thought, that was it. I had my chance to turn to the Lord, and I failed. I failed him. And so, I was going on my bike doing silly things. I'd cry to myself to sleep again. I would just be lost. I'd be empty. I'd be floating in a void again, waiting for God to call me back. Because I had a feeling, that God was going to call me back again. And I remember on my way back from church one day, I was just listening to music and I was crying. The Lord was telling me, he sees me. And he reminded me of a chapter in a verse, and it was saying to lift people up when they're struggling. And that's when I realised, Mum rebuking me wasn't her. Mum rebuking me wasn't God, it was her. And then I got another flashback on when God told me when I was spirit-filled to not trust anyone else's voice but his, to rely on his voice and no one else's. So that's when I realised, this is the Lord talking to me. This is the Lord saying that he loves me still. The Lord telling me, even though how much I've sinned, he's calling me again. And I realised this. And I burst out into tears on the way home. And then that my mum started apologising, that she constantly rebuked me. She started apologising so much. And we ended up praying. And as she prayed, she told me, and God spoke through her, that I am written in the book of life. And that Jesus died for a reason. And that Jesus went up to the cross for sin. And that opened my mind a little bit. I'm going to sin. I'm going to fall short of his expectations. But that's because I'm a sinner myself. And when I realised that, I realised and I told myself, no matter how many times I fall, I'm going to get back up again. And God showed me a verse again in Proverbs 24 verse 16. The righteous man falls 7 times, but gets back up every time. So every time I fall, I look at that verse and I go, the Lord doesn't want me to feel sorry for myself. The Lord doesn't want me to go back to my old ways. The Lord wants me to pick myself up, take my cross, and to understand that I'm going to sin, but I have to repent. So I have now got this new image where every time I fall, I confess and I tell my mum and I work to what God wants me to do, because he's provided me with everything I needed. He's provided me with everything I've had in my life. All this pain I had is for a reason, because I've realised that he's got a plan for me. And in order for this plan to work, you have to go through things for this plan to be perfect. And so I realised I have to be obedient to his will. But it was still tough for me, the devil was constantly in my mind every day trying to tempt me to do this. And I would never run away from it. I would always, I would always try and fight it myself. And it got to a point where, because I was doing it so much, I didn't want to confess it, because I was confessing it every day at this point. But I still kept getting up, even though I would cry sometimes. The Lord would show me videos on TikTok, Proverbs 24 verse 16, and it used to remind me of him telling me I'm going to fall. And so this little hope I had on Jesus. I remember going out for a walk about 4 weeks ago. I went out for a walk, and I went to walk for the Lord. I went to seek him. And I was so lost. But I knew as I was talking to him in this walk, I was like, Lord, I realised something. I'm trying to do it myself. So I prayed to him, Lord, can you do it for me? Father, can you just take this sin, take it and deal with it for me? This pain I have, you healed it, Lord. You are all loving. You've loved me so much. And that's when a word came in my mind. God is ever faithful. That's where I realised how faithful he's been in my life. How many times I've fallen short in these years. How many times where I've gotten back up and he's been there with his arms open. How many times has he been doing that? Why would he stop? So that's when I realised, let me pray to the Lord. Let me seek him and let me ask him to put it in his hands. Lord, I confess that I don't want this sin anymore. I renounce it in your name. But I didn't get anything. I didn't feel anything. So I thought, maybe it was too far stretched what I did. But that Sunday, Pastor James at Calvary Church, on a Sunday during the worship, said, come up for prayers. And, I just got this vision of what happened the first time I was spirit-filled. So I thought this Lord was pushing me to do it, to pray to pick up my cross. That's what the Lord put in my mind. But I didn't want to do it. To do it in front of everyone of my anxiety. I'm not doing it, Lord. I'm going to worship you because I love to worship you. So I'm just going to do this. But as I was worshipping, I noticed that the line for James started shortening. And I'm like, Lord, I'm not doing it, Lord. I don't care what you say. I'm not doing it. I'm going to worship you. And I'm not doing it. But as the last person was getting prayed for, I just felt like something was pushing me. My legs was going towards that direction, and that's when I knew the Lord was putting it so heavy on my heart to go and ask for prayer that there was no way I could say no to it. Because if the Lord's calling you to do that, that means it's going to be fruitful, and you have to be obedient to when the Lord calls you to do something. So I decided to be obedient and just swallow my pride and swallow my flesh, and so I did that. And as I asked to pick up my cross every day, James was praying for me and I was shaking. God's love was on me again. It was God telling me he sees me. He sees the pain and he's got a plan for me. He reminded me of the works he was doing in my life. He reminded me of my bottom and how he healed me from that. And so I realised this. And I realised, I'm going to give my all to the Lord. Even though I'm falling, even though I'm doing this sin, I'm going to give it to him. He's got it. I haven't, because I can't do it. I've realised that, so I'm going to give it to him, and he's got a plan and he's going to do it for me because he's the one that can do anything. And so when I realised this, I've got a new mindset now where every time I sin, I take it to the Lord, I take it with the Lord. I don't do it myself, I don't ignore it. And sometimes I do because that's my flesh and I'm going to sin. But I've got this new mindset. I've been opened up to how to combat this sin, to flee from it. And I'm feeling joyful now. got the Lord behind me. I got a new job that the Lord's using me for. You know, out of nowhere, one of my friends asked me, they're looking for someone, and I knew this was God calling me for this, for my next path, for my next step in Him. So, you know, I'm like knowing the Lord's doing something with me. I had this feeling that something I was going to be spirit filled again. So I kept praying, Lord, fill me with your Spirit, Lord. Lord, do as your will. And I felt something was going to happen. We had visitors from America, Joey Rozek and some people from the church came to visit us on a Thursday night. We was worshipping, and I felt the Lord so powerful. I was rejoicing. I was loving it. And then that's when James said, come up for prayer if you feel led. And that's when, as soon as he said that, I'm like, Lord, I'm not going up for prayer. No, this time, I'm not doing it, you know. And I was being disobedient because I knew the Lord put it in my mind to pray for lust. But I was like, I'm not having it. I'll go up to them after the worship, and I just let me worship you, Lord. But it just kept popping up, lust. So I said to God, if you really want me to go up for prayer, keep pushing me. Put it so heavy on my heart that I can't deny it. So as I was worshipping, He put it so hard, so heavy on my heart, I couldn't just say no. So I just got visions of what happened before. Every time I was obedient, so I decided I'm gonna be obedient again. So I went out for prayer, and I asked for lust. And Joey Rozek was asking me questions. What should lust be replaced with? And I said, the Holy Spirit. And as he was praying for me, I felt God's love again. Unexplainable. I've never felt it this powerful before. And I was crying, I was sobbing, you know, the Lord's doing something with me, and this is it. And then He asked me a question. Was I abused as a child? And that's when it hit me. The root cause to lust was me filling the void of being neglected of love. That's what lust was doing. I was so neglected of love in my teenage and hitting puberty that lust was the only thing that would get that love. So it was a root cause. And so then that's when I realised, you know, this is the Lord getting me to confess the sin, and then the Lord putting on Joey Rozek's heart that I was abused, and then heal me of this abuse as a child. So I know the Lord was doing work, and as He was praying for me, I have never felt so much love in my heart from anyone, but a love from this supernatural God. This love is infinite, endless, and it will heal you of every struggle. I couldn't feel my flesh anymore. I was so lifted up by His love. It was so powerful, and I knew the Lord was doing a work in me, and I could feel His love in the room. God was in that room. I could feel Him. And every time people was worshipping as I was being prayed for, I saw their words and the worship of their words entering in my mouth, coming through my mouth and into my heart. And as it was entering my heart was rejoicing. I was rejoicing in my mind like, Lord, I am so unworthy of what you're doing. But this is why you're God, Lord. You are so infinite. You're so endless. Your love is infinite. I am so unworthy, Lord. I just kept praising His name. And as I was being prayed for and as I was being healed, Joey Rozek then said to me, he was praying over me, and he said, God's got a plan for me. God's going to use me. And he was then praying for my gifts, gifts of prophecy. And as he said gifts of prophecy, I had my arms out like this, just where I was praising the Lord for what He's doing with me right now. And as he said gifts of prophecy, I felt these iron ingots get slammed into my hands, and I got pins and needles from my whole body, especially in my hands. Like they just flopped. And when these iron ingots went through my hands, through my arms, and into my heart, I just felt so weak, but weak in a good way, because I knew that my weakness was where the Lord was at His greatness, because I was no more and it was all Him. And that's when I realised in my mind that the Lord has been so faithful in my life, so faithful throughout the years of me sinning, and He's doing what He's doing right now. And I remember the prayer ended and I was crying so much. I was rejoicing so much in my mind. I was like, praise you, Lord, for what you're doing. I go back to worship Him. And I remember as I went to stand up, I couldn't stand up. The Lord's glory was so powerful and it's so overwhelming. I was just cast down to my head. And I was crying on the floor, on the chair, keeping my head bowed down. My head was throbbing for how much I was crying. My head was killing me for how much I was crying. But His love was so powerful, I didn't even care. The Lord was all over me. And as the worship ended, I remember going to the bathroom and He was telling me He sees me. He reminded me of the Proverbs 24 verse 16. He was showing me his love, and he filled me again in the bathroom. I come out and I couldn't stop crying. And that's when I knew that it's starting now. The Lord has a plan for me, and I have just to be obedient and not to get in the way. Because at the same time, the Lord has been using me at work, sharing my testimony. Because sharing this testimony has been such a hard thing for me to do because it goes so deep. And it was such a struggle to remember it all, because I blocked it all out as a child of these things I used to witness. I used to block it all out. And God was reminding me that I need to start sharing my testimony for how much He's been doing in my life. Because what He's done in my life, He can do to anyone else's life, but you've just got to want it. And that's what the Lord was showing me. And how grateful I am for Him to be doing these works. I don't deserve it. You know, I shouldn't be here. I should be dead, but the Lord saved me. He saw that I could be used for Him. He saw that I needed something, and He saw my heart, how it was screaming for help. He heard those screams, and He came to me. And as He came to me, He saw how I would come to Him. And I did that because I realised God is everything, and God is everything I needed in my life. Everything I was missing, God was the answer. And me sharing this testimony right now, it's not from me, but it's from the Lord. I would never be able to share my testimony. Every time I have in the past, I struggle to breathe. I have panic attacks. I can't look at anyone in the eyes. God's put me into a position where it's so heavy on my heart to talk about it, to the point where I realise, I'm not going to be talking about my testimony. It's the Lord talking about my testimony, because I can't do it myself. I can't do anything myself, but it's the Lord that does everything. And when you realise that that you've got Jesus behind your back, your faith can move mountains. And so I just pray to the Lord every day that I was to keep confessing my sins, because I know I'm going to fall. But that's where I've realised that I need to put it to the Lord's hands, and I don't want to get in the way of His work. So Father, I pray and I thank You and I praise Your name for the works You have done in my life, Lord. And anyone watching that's struggling or hiding away from themselves, Lord, that You reveal Yourself to them. And Lord, anyone coming to You, Lord, and seeking You, that You reveal Yourself like You revealed Yourself to me, Father. You're so loving, You're so faithful, but You only go to those who want it. You only go to those who need it, Lord. So I pray that anyone that wants it, anyone that's really seeking You, Lord, that You reveal Yourself to them, Lord. You are mighty, You are ever faithful, and this testimony is proof of Your existence, Lord, of Your faithfulness. Because I should not be here right now talking about it, Lord. I should be dead, Lord. But You saved me, and You gave me a reason to live. You gave me a reason to strive day and day to please You, Lord. So I pray that anyone else seeking for an answer, that they watch this video and they see that this is the answer to what they were seeking. The answer, that is Jesus, the one who came on this earth and died for us, and died for sin, and overcame death. Lord, You are great and You are powerful. I know there's works to come. So I praise Your name every day. Amen. Thank you for watching. And I pray that, I just ask and plead with you that you pray to God and you start trying to talk to Him, because it takes effort from you to grow in the Lord and really strive. And you might not think He's real, but even though you might not think He's real, doesn't mean he isn't real. This world is so fallen and so broken that you can see it, wars everywhere, sins everywhere. But as long as you can see this and you seek the Lord, you will be healed and you will be used. He's got a plan for every single one of us. And I just want to thank Pastor James and Calvary Chapel for doing such a work in my life, and how the Lord used a fellowship with brothers and sisters to lift me up. I'm so blessed by the Lord with the church I have. So I praise Him. But I wish the best of luck to anyone who's struggling, and Amen. Praise the Lord.